Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the latest edition of the Opening Bell with Alex and Matt. A fairly light enough week, though not necessarily with the news lines. We'll be talking about this weekend coming up in Ireland, Jazza and Cacace, etc. There is action on DAZN over in California as well, with Arnold Barbosa in action. Oscar Collazo, the hard-hitting lightweight fighter as well. So all of that coming up this week. We're not going to do This Week in History as it happens. We're going to shelve that for this week. We've been quite busy over the weekend, and we had quite a long day yesterday. We were recording on a Monday, actually, so slightly early serve of the pod, because we went to the British Boxing Board of Control Awards yesterday, and someone got an award. Someone got a surprise award, didn't he, Matthew?
He did. It was a surprise. It was a lovely surprise. It was a special recognition award that was given to myself and my two immediate predecessors at Boxing News, Tris Dixon and Claude Abrams. And I genuinely had no idea I was going to get it at all. There was no kind of phone call beforehand saying, are you sure you're going to be there? Are you definitely going to be there? There was none of that. And I think what had crossed my mind is that I knew Claude was going, and Claude hadn't been to one since I've been going. And I thought he might get something. But that was really the only thought that popped into my mind. But yeah, wonderful. Really, really wonderful. My daughter and wife were not nearly as impressed with it as I was when I got home yesterday.
It's a very weighty tome, though, isn't it? It's a nice bit of kit. You know, it's not light fluff. You could definitely put that on top of something if you need it as a kind of marker or whatever, or you need to weigh something down. Very good, very impressive.
Or you could keep it by the side of the bed, couldn't you, and use it to wade off any intruders. You could do some serious damage with it. Yeah, it's a nice bit of kit.
It's a nice, a great day as ever. You get to mingle with what you described as our superheroes, the boxers themselves. We get to bump into friends and colleagues in the business as well. So it's always a fantastic atmosphere, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, it is. I really enjoy it. I mean, when I was the editor at Boxing News, I always made a speech, and that kind of came along about that would make me a bit on edge. But since I've been going, not being the editor of Boxing News, I do really, really enjoy it. It's great to see some of those faces you only see once a year, don't you? But you always get a warm embrace from everybody. And we had a really interesting table, didn't we?
Mm.
I think my favourite person of the day, and he might be my new best friend, is old Nigel we were sat next to. What a bloke he is.
Nigel Pinson Fleming, yes. He used to be the keyboard player for Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, and then the Stone Roses as well. I mean, talk about a career and a half. But, I mean, he was an outlier on our table, wasn't he? He was the coolest dude on that table by like about 8 million miles, both in terms of dress, reputation, storytelling and everything. He was fantastic company, wasn't he? What a life he has led. What an interesting guy. And, a little bit sort of off the spectrum in terms of how he sees music as numbers and all of that. What a fascinating cat.
Yeah, really.
Just need to make him a boxing fan, and then we can get him on the pod. But there were so many highlights, weren't there, Matt? I mean, Nigel Travis getting a special award. What a year it's been. What a year and a bit it's been for Nigel Travis. I had a bit of a chat with him before, actually. He knew about the award, and then a bit of a warm embrace with him afterwards as well. He loved that, and what a year he's having personally.
What a speech, Alex. What a speech that he gave. I mean, I don't know if we can repeat it on here, but he was genuinely, it felt like about a minute lost for words. Well, apart from one F word that he said twice.
One word, yeah.
He said that twice.
It went like this. It went like this. He went, F. Wow. F. Yeah, he just couldn't quite take it in. But a bit like Fabio Wardley, who won Fighter of the Year, very quick to, self-deprecating, very quick to honor and respect and thank all of those who've kind of played a part. And really, it was an homage to his dad, wasn't it, for Nigel Travis? For Fabio Wardley, it was the sort of big thank to Rob Hodgkins, one, the guy who first laced up his gloves when he went white collar, the guy who laced up his gloves when he's been winning these big fights and winning titles as well. So that was really lovely to see.
It was. And you could see it meant an awful lot to everybody that won it. Now and again at these things, particularly with the bigger names, you sense that it doesn't really mean a lot to them. But even Conor Benn, he was there to accept Contest of the Year. Eubank Jr. wasn't there, and it was for their first fight. And whatever one thinks about the making of that fight and the aftermath, it meant an awful lot to Conor Benn. And he referenced his dad as well, didn't he? He said, this means a lot to me because I remember seeing this trophy at home when I was a kid. Now I've got one of my own. So it meant a lot to everybody that was there and everybody who was lucky enough to win awards.
Yeah, whatever you say about Conor Benn, and we have said plenty, and I think plenty, but you have to say actually his acceptance speech was excellent, really, in the moment. And if you just forget all the other stuff, and it's hard, oftentimes, most of the time, it's hard to forget it and push it to the side, given the way that unfolded. And the more you think about it, and the more you see the way the WBC's acted recently with the Usyk scenario, the more it really sticks in your throat that they had an opportunity to address Conor Benn's first failed test, and they fell asleep at the wheel. They blew it. The reason Conor Benn didn't have to face the music mainly is because the WBC blew it with their own positive test on the clean boxing program. But anyway, we've been through that. He was good in his acceptance speech. And the other real highlight of the day, Matt, was this decision now by the British Boxing Board of Control to honour those who've won British titles but who may not have won a Lonsdale belt outright. And so they had 20 plus fighters on the day, British champions, past and present, who were awarded a framed certificate of kind of authenticity of their achievement. And they actually had them all up on stage. I wouldn't mind getting my hands on that photo. It was an absolute cracker. You had Barry McGuigan there, Duke McKenzie, Dalton Smith was up there, Jamie Moore, George Groves, Emma Dolan, new British champion as well. Mickey Cantwell was there alongside Wardley. Josh Kelly, I think, was there as well. Johnny Nelson, I believe. I mean, what a photo that'll be.
Francis Ampafo as well.
Francis, smiling away. Actually, I had a chat with Robbie Regan afterwards. What a mischievous nuisance of a man he is. I absolutely love him. He is such a little cheeky dervish, isn't he?
Yeah, he really
imagine him in his prime, Matt. He'd have been an absolute pest, wouldn't he? Robbie Regan. I mean, he's a handful now. What a mischievous little character. I absolutely adore him. I love him. So seeing him is always one of the highlights of the board awards for me. Always getting to catch up with Robbie Regan. And he was still talking about his fights with Francis Ampofo. But yeah, smiling Francis was up there as well on that stage.
It brought to mind, you remember when we went to the Hall of Fame last year and then we were looking at that particular photo where there were, I think it was taken in 1980 or something like that, wasn't it? And there was a collection of kind of British fighting legends within that photograph. And we were both really taken by that particular photograph. And that the photos that were taken yesterday, I suspect in decades to come, that will feel like a special moment.
And in terms of, I suppose you have to be cost effective about these things as well. I think as an organisation like the board, as a sort of memento goes for that, great idea, nothing but admiration and applause and respect for that as an idea. I wonder, is there a different, better way of memorialising it, remembering it? dignifying it actually for those fighters than say that framed certificate? I don't know if there's another way to do that.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you started that, didn't you? Cost effective. There probably is a better way to do it. I'm sure they'd all like a sparkling shiny belt, but the cost of that is...
Or maybe like a Lord Lonsdale medal, maybe something like that.
Perhaps,
possibly.
yeah. But it was nice, wasn't it? Because they'd been honoured, and a lot of them had been forgotten, and they had their moment on stage.
Yeah, fantastic, really cool. You can go along as a punter, by the way. You can pay for a ticket and get on a table. I think it's around 125 quid or something like that. Get a group of your mates, maybe the office, or get them to expense it. But you can get there, and the Jugged Hare is the boozer, just one of the boozers just around the corner. Farringdon, Barbican are not a million miles away. It's in that part of the town at the moment in Chiswell Street. It's a good venue, actually, isn't it? Now, for that,
it's called the Brewery. It's a really good venue. My wife works in event management, and she always speaks really, really highly of that venue. Yeah. And I think it always used to be over in Hammersmith, didn't it? In a hotel. And I do think that this venue, which is slightly cozier, but built for purpose, has enhanced the whole British Boxing Board of Control Awards since it's moved there.
Yeah, and I think the way they're doing it, Andy Clark's hosting it now, I think the rhythm of it is better. And these little additions, like the boxers who've won British titles being recognised and honoured on the night retrospectively, I think that's a fantastic idea. So bit by bit, they're starting to make this a really cool event, and it's starting to flow better, and some of the storylines are developing better. So it is becoming... let's be honest, the board are pretty backwards about coming forwards, aren't they? Most of the time about a lot of stuff, but this is starting to take shape. So it is becoming a kind of destination night, and I suspect it's only going to get better and better. Let's talk about some of the news lines, Matt. One of the big ones since last week's pod was Tom Aspinall joining the Matchroom agency to look after his kind of marketing and promotional rights. What did you make of that? Of course, only a few days on from, or a week on from Conor Benn joining Zuffa. Tit for tat, a good fit for the both of them. How do you see that working?
No idea. I mean, it didn't really register with me, to be honest. I mean, yet again, you're being teased by there's something absolutely enormous about to break. And Matchroom were exceptionally tight-lipped. There was no... I mean, I spoke to several people on the day and saying, what is it? And, you kind of speculate, well, if it's going to be that big, is it Anthony Joshua announcing his next fight? And yeah, it's Tom Aspinall. And you kind of think... I mean, your first instinct, if you're a bit cynical, is this is just like a dick-swinging contest, isn't it? And would that link up have occurred if Conor Benn hadn't gone off to Zuffa? I think you can most certainly ask that question. And I know Eddie Hearn was quite bullish in the amount of noise that this announcement had created. But I think when you compare it to the noise that occurred when Conor Benn left Matchroom, then it's plainly obvious which was the louder, and that was Conor Benn leaving.
The one thing I would wonder, given how the UFC is a monopoly and they can effectively do much of what they like, the powers that be in whether it's the ratings, the rankings, the operational nature of it, payments, contracts, etc. I do wonder neutrally whether this might in some way harm Aspinall going forward. As long as you're winning, you're the heavyweight champion. Of course, he had that injury against Cyril Gagne last year with a sort of eye poke, etc. So I do wonder how that kind of plays out, given what you just suggested about the characters and the nature of the way they're going about their business right now.
That has been suggested. hasn't it? It's been suggested that either the opportunities won't fall at Aspinall's feet anymore, that he'll be somehow punished for getting Eddie Hearn on board. Dana White has actually come out and said he doesn't care. He doesn't care who's advising the fighters. He will continue to work with them. And I do sometimes get a sense that Dana White isn't nearly as bothered about Eddie Hearn as Eddie Hearn is about him. But we wait and see. It's not a subject I have particularly any knowledge about, or can even be bothered to express my opinion on it, because I haven't really got one, to be honest. It's just, it's just something that isn't really in our boxing world.
No.
But I thought, but what I did see as well, the other thing that I did consider, because Eddie Hearn is also saying we're going to start working with footballers and everything else, and I did then wonder if this is Eddie Hearn kind of slowly edging out of the boxing industry, but he denied that firmly and said, I've never been more determined to make it work in boxing than I am right now. But yeah, they're a money-making machine. They know what they're doing. I don't think there's anybody better than them at what they do in the sporting market. So I'm sure they'll make a success of it.
Also in the last week, Katie Taylor looking for one farewell fight back home. Obviously, the chat over the last 2-3 years has been about a big fight at Croke Park, and Eddie's been sort of threatening or half promising that he'd like to make that happen. It may be more difficult than just that. But anyway, Katie, homecoming, what do we know about that?
We're waiting to find out. That's what we thought the news might be last week with the Matchroom press conference. Chantel Cameron's been mentioned as a possible. I think when a fighter is declaring it's their last one, there's always a concern as to are they going to pick an opponent that is somehow inferior? Have they already lost some focus? Do they already know that they're not the fighter that they used to be? But I think with Katie Taylor, given the way that she has orchestrated an insanely successful career, and that is down to that bloody mindedness that she's got and just the complete and utter dedication to the sport. I don't think we'll see any of that with her, and I think she'll want the best possible opponent.
Interesting you mentioned Chantel Cameron, because I had a conversation with Nigel Travis about that, and I was more or less saying, do you know what? Sometimes in life it does pay just to keep your head down and keep your mouth shut. And although your heart's pounding, your brain is hurting, and you want to say what you want to say, sometimes it's best. And what I meant is, in terms of Chantel leaving Travis and Jamie Moore, going elsewhere, but now returning to the fold. And we were talking about it generally, not specifically about Chantel, but we were talking about that idea generally. And he was just saying how difficult, so difficult, because you're so close to these fighters and you give so much to them and they mean so much to you that it can't help but become personal, even although I'm saying to him, you can't take it personally, because it isn't necessarily a reflection of you. But he was saying, in a general sense, that's how close they get. That's how much they give. And you could totally understand how, when that plays out, how it must hurt, how difficult it must be. Well,
it's almost like it's just like a parent-child relationship, isn't it? With how much of themselves that they sacrifice in order for that fighter or that child to do well in life, to do well in their career. And we've seen it with numerous coaches how it really affects them when their pride and joy essentially turns around and just leaves them. But your philosophy on it is right. But then if trainers were so kind of blasé about the relationship, then they wouldn't be as successful as trainers.
Yeah. If it doesn't mean something, then is it something? Absolutely right. Absolutely right. The other couple of news lines that I wanted to touch on, this is one that I know you've put a lot of work into, or at least you've covered it on Boxing Scene. I think Jake Donovan and Lance Pugmire, at least, have been over the kind of Oscar De La Hoya, Vergil Ortiz story. Last week, Oscar had won a kind of legal battle that would prevent Vergil Ortiz looking elsewhere in the short term. But it's been sort of toing and froing, and it's been an enduring story, this one, hasn't it? Kind of away from the ring itself. Matt, what can you tell us about all of this?
I think the headline last week was that Oscar De La Hoya wins the case. So from that, you can draw the conclusion that all of the evidence has been heard in court and they've ruled in favour of Oscar De La Hoya. That isn't the case. It needs to go to court. And it is my understanding that Team Ortiz will take it to court, and they feel they have got a cast iron case, whether that's Vergil Ortiz Sr., his manager, Rick, forget his surname. Is it Merigian? I forget his surname.
Yeah.
Anyway, but basically there are four four obvious breaches of contract. One of them is that if they're offered a fight and they turn it down for whatever reason, there should be two other options given to them. Now they're claiming that they were offered the Ennis fight for a $3 million purse. They turned it down purely because they felt that $3 million just was not the going rate for this fight, which many people are saying is the best fight to make in the sport. So they turned that down, and they were not offered an alternative. They should also, if they felt that the offer was unfair, or that that they were not happy with what they were being offered, then Rick and Ortiz should have been free. This is according to them. They should be then free to go and sort their own fight out, which is what I think they were trying to do before all of this started to get increasingly messy. The other one, of course, is the relationship with DAZN, and that Vergil could have left Golden Boy if Golden Boys didn't have a broadcasting deal. And there's a bit of contention here because Golden Boy are no longer have a contract with DAZN, but they still have a relationship with them. So they had a fight that was broadcast in January by DAZN that was Golden Boy promoted. There's one in March scheduled to be on DAZN. So there is a bit of point of contention with that. But what Golden Boy don't have is the contract with DAZN that they used to have. That did cease at the end of last year. And then finally, something else that was in the contract is that if Oscar De La Hoya is acting up, or if he acts in a way that can essentially burn bridges for Vergil Ortiz, then they can leave that relationship. And the suggestion is that with Oscar's admittedly exceptionally entertaining clapbacks, is that he has pretty much annoyed everybody. Turki El Sheikh, Eddie Hearn, all of them. He's annoyed them all with his antics on that clapback. And there's a suggestion that has hurt Ortiz's ability to secure the fights that he wants to. So there's all that going on, and they are all exceptionally confident that they will win the case when it gets as far as court. But at the moment, all that was ruled is that we're essentially in a state of status quo. We can't rule this at this point. You're still under contract to Golden Boy. It's messy. It's messy. But speaking to a few people out in America, is that they believe this will be resolved quicker than many people think. Because you say it's got to go to court, and you start to think, well, it could be years before it actually gets heard. But given that where we're at the moment is seriously hurting an athlete's ability to earn money, they think that it will be expedited, and it will be heard sooner rather than later. And
there was a bit of chat last week about Mayweather being busy. He's fighting a kickboxer, isn't he, ahead of Pacquiao, which is just around the corner. Mayweather, Mike Tyson, is there any legs in this as some kind of exhibition matchup?
Oh, I don't know. I hope not. I mean, it's been reported, and it was my understanding that it had kind of been reported as it was all a done deal, and it was definitely happening. Mike Tyson turned 60, I think, this year. He was born in 1966, wasn't he? June 1966. It's ludicrous, and
of course it is.
I try to ignore it. You've still got all of these people online that are convinced that Tyson threw the fight with Jake Paul,
Yeah.
and are convinced that if he wants to, he can turn into the destroyer he was when he was 21 years old. I've just got so little interest in Mike Tyson versus Floyd Mayweather. It's ridiculous, and it's a stupid idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think regulars know my thoughts on all of this. I mean, even Mayweather, even see Mayweather now, I've got zero interest in. Never mind Mike Tyson. I mean, have any of these people watched Mike Tyson against Danny Williams? Go watch that. Watch Tyson lying on his backside, looking up, and then wind the clock on 30 years. I mean, yeah, go figure. Yeah, the Congo, apparently, they're talking about, although the original sort of springtime date, apparently bogus. But yeah, we'll see about that. Those are the news lines. I've not watched it in full, but Opetaia beating Brandon Glanton, ultimately becoming the first Zuffa champion, but not Matt defending his IBF title. There was a late decision on that, wasn't it? So that's kind of garnered as much news as Opetaia getting back in the ring and winning.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that they might. I thought the IBF might put their title on the line. Glanton was 15th in the latest IBF rankings, which kind of suggested to me that the IBF might just give this one a pass. But they're notoriously strict, the IBF, and ultimately what they decided was that if you're going to fight for another belt, then you're not going to fight for the IBF. Now, what they can do, what an IBF champion can do, would be to request essentially a voluntary defence, which is also a unification. But the IBF didn't rule that Zuffa is a unification. They didn't. They essentially turned around and said that's not a proper title. So if you want to fight for that, you will lose your IBF belt the moment that the opening bell sounds, and that's what happened.
I thought there was a suggestion that it was almost simply ego, and that because the Zuffa belt was given more prominence, literally on the table as much as in the build-up as well, that the IBF got the hump with it. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise you, would you? It wouldn't surprise you at all, as much as they have been sticklers for their own rules in recent years.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I think you can say, well, fair play to the IBF for not putting this on the line, therefore sacrificing probably a pretty hefty sanctioning fee. I know that the other three sanctioning bodies would probably have put it on the line and accepted the sanctioning fee with a smile. There is a lot going on behind the scenes with Zuffa and Dana White publicly almost declaring war on the sanctioning bodies and saying that he wants an end to the sanctioning bodies and he wants one championship and he's going to do everything he possibly can to ensure that the Zuffa championship is the best and is the only one that fighters want to fight for. So their backs will be up a little bit here. So I can understand it, but really, Brandon Glanton, he's capable kind of fringe contender level. But even if the IBF had turned around and said he's not good enough for you, Jay, I'd have admired that. Opetaia has said, I've lost the IBF belt before. I'll win it back and I'm going to win the other three belts. So that's almost kind of a contradiction of what the head honcho, Dana White, is saying. But Opetaia is still very much determined to win all four belts. But if he's going to continue to fight for the Zuffa championship, you can't see how that happens.
So how does this play out? I mean, it does seem, as pretty much from the moment he signed, that Opetaia's goals, dreams and ambitions don't seem to tally with those of his new employer, and certainly not the war chants that are coming out from that new employer as well. How does this play out? Who's he going to fight? And let's stress, he's not been stripped by the IBF. He just wasn't allowed to defend his title.
I think he's been stripped.
That's it. He has been stripped.
Yeah, I think he's been stripped. I'm not sure how it's going to play out. I mean, I know that it's because we're in a situation now almost where you've got the old guard, and with the old guard, you Frank Warren, Bob Arum, Eddie Hearn, De La Hoya. The old guard are suddenly very much behind the sanctioning bodies and saying this is the way it is. This is the way it's always been. This is what fighters want to win. They want to win the sanctioning body belts. They grew up looking at fighters with the green WBC belt or whatever, or the IBF, and that's what they want to do. Yet I also think that they've long wanted to do that because to get the biggest paydays, they had to have a title. And I think ultimately, if you sit down and speak to 100 boxers that are in and around world level, what really is their motivation? Is it the belts or is it money? And I think the vast majority would say money. And we've seen it numerous times where fighters will sacrifice the chance to win a title if they're going to earn more money doing something else. And that's really, I think, what we'll see is that we will see just how important those sanctioning body titles really are to the fighters. But how this particular, Opetaia does seem to just want that he wants that kind of undisputed tag, doesn't he? But whether he'll be able to do that with Zuffa, I don't know. Particularly if the other sanctioning bodies follow the IBF's lead on with their rules in regard to fighting for a Zuffa championship and a sanctioning body belt.
Well, you suspect there just aren't enough cruiserweights on their roster to match him anyway. Never mind how does the business work with making matches with the other sanctioning bodies? It looks confusing.
It does look confusing, and that's the thing. And I wrote a column over the weekend about this kind of evolving storyline, the evolving war, the battle. And even if Zuffa were to come in and sign every superstar in boxing, and there isn't that many, if you do that exercise and you go down the weight classes, there's probably 6 or 7 in the entire sport that you could at a push say were genuine superstars. Even if Zuffa came in and signed all of those fighters, and they might, but they won't, because I included Anthony Joshua in it. But anyway, even if they were to sign all of those fighters, it's not going to make the kind of splash that will then submerge the surrounding landscape, because you've got other fighters getting on with other things and everything else. And also, and to your point, okay, if you sign Canelo, who are you going to match him with? If you sign Alexander Usyk, who are you going to match him with? And that then you start to see that this can't happen overnight for Zuffa. And if they're serious about creating something that is a far more attractive alternative to the sanctioning body titles, this needs to be a 5 to 10 year plan. And they need to be working with the young fighters. They need to get the structure in place. And when you look at it and you really break it down, that what they're promising and how difficult it will be to get there, you start to think, I don't think we're really going to notice any difference. But again, as I've said, since this all started, it's really interesting watching it all develop and how everybody how everybody's nose has been put out of joint. And it's always what happens when someone new comes along. Frank Warren did it in the 80s. He wound everybody up when he came along. Look at how much Eddie Hearn was winding Frank Warren up when he came along. De La Hoya did it. In order to kind of make a statement, you have to pee people off, really. And this is what's happening. But I'm yet to see any concrete evidence that this will be any different to all of those arrivals. It's just another powerhouse making their way in the sport. But if people think that everybody's just going to go running off into the shadows, that's not going to happen. I think, as ever, it will be a state of that they have to coexist.
But it's another obstacle towards fights getting made, particularly the best fights getting made. If you have people jumping ship on opposite sides, that's another obstacle in the way, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
This weekend, there's action from Dublin to California, all on DAZN. Jazza Dickens, he managed to get out of Dubai, didn't he? It was a bit of a worry about sort of flights have resumed to an extent. So Jazza, based in Dubai these days, is a battle of the mid to late 30s, isn't it? 34 Jazza, 37 Cacace, who's having this unbelievable late surge in his career, and he is short price favourite to win this one. He's odds on at 2-5 Cacace to beat Jazza Dickens, probably on points at 11-8, though 2-1 for the knockout. Cacace is always on the cards with him, as we saw against Wood and indeed against Cordina as well. Jazza still getting it done, having a little resurgence himself. He's won 4 on the bounce. It's a good little matchup for the pair of them, isn't it? But Cacace a rightful favourite, Matt.
Yeah, I think on form you have to make Cacace the favourite. I think if you look at their styles as well, you'd probably make Cacace the favourite. But there's something about Jazza that you simply can't write off. I mean, I remember when I first spoke to him when he was on the way up, and just the ambition that he had to win a major title in the sport. And for a while, when he started to lose his way, Jazza Dickens was one of those kind of fighters that you're a little bit concerned about. Like, if you take his dream away from him, how is he going to cope? What else is he going to do with himself? But he's got himself back on the right track. He won a belt, and he will come into this fully believing that he is going to win. But I would probably say that Cacace will win this one on points, kind of 8-4, kind of margin.
Yeah, I think Cacace will win, probably on points. I'm leaning towards that. I could see him stopping Jazz. I could see that. But yeah, Cacace, I think, on points, given the way he's flying right now. It's quite a while since he lost. 10 years since Jazza fought Rigo. Remember that night when he stepped up?
Wow.
It's 10 years, yeah. Dared to be great. Rigo broke his jaw, didn't he? 10 years ago.
Yeah. That was insane matchmaking, looking back on it.
Rigo, and that's when Rigo was flying as well. Flying through the cookie jar and flying through his career as well. Don't know what the drug testing's been like out in Dubai.
Well, don't ask anybody official that question. You'll get thrown out.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. But Jazza against Cacace this weekend. Cacace is the short price favourite. Pierce O'Leary in action as well. Matt, he'll be well fancied to win that one. 18-0, Pierce O'Leary. I think as yet with O'Leary, he's such a promising fighter, isn't he? And he's got all the ingredients. I don't think as yet the performances have maybe matched. Hype's the wrong word, but the kind of praise and expectation that seems to go along with him.
You talk to people in the sport that know what they're looking at, and Pierce O'Leary is someone they say has got it all. But I agree with you. He's very clearly talented, but he might just be, as he steps up, so too does his performance level. I suspect he'll win at the weekend.
And he can whack as well. I think for a 140 fighter, he can whack. So everyone says sparring partners and gym mates. Excuse me. We spoke to Reece Lynch, didn't we, on the pod as part of our prospect series probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. And Reece Lynch had been down doing a lot of sparring with Pierce O'Leary, and he mentioned that, didn't he, Max? He had never been hit like that before. Now, he's just a young prospect coming from the amateurs, so you've got to take that with a little bit of context. But even still, he made note of that. He made quite a point of it.
Yeah, he's not the only one to say that about Pierce O'Leary as well. There's a few eyes going to be on him. People in the sport, some power brokers will be watching very, very carefully about Pierce O'Leary this weekend. He's the kind of fighter that you could see Zuffa or someone of that nature kind of looking to get. And I think, and I'm not, I'm not suggesting that he should go there, but I do think that if Zuffa are serious about this, that's the kind of fighter they should be looking at, as opposed to the U6 that's right at the end of their career.
Mm-hmm. I see Jarrell Miller turned them down, didn't he? And his reasoning was that, the fit just wasn't right for him. And mainly he's talking about kind of fights and particularly the money. It probably underlines the kind of money that Jarrell Miller's had for some of those fights, like against Dubois in the last few years. So there is some context there. But yeah, Jarrell Miller turned Zuffa down, and he was talking about the kind of structure of pay and fights as the reason for that.
Well, this is it. I mean, you've got that on the one hand, and then you've got the 15 million for Conor Benn, one fight on the other.
Yeah.
Mixed messages going on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it just sounds like they're just trying to grab a bit of spotlight to shine on their sport, however it comes, their side of the sport for the short term. Yeah. It absolutely smacks of that, doesn't it? There is action in California this weekend as well. Arnold Barbosa against Kenneth Sims Jr. That could be fight of the weekend, actually. And I think Barbosa, he's the bet of the weekend for me at slight odds against to beat Sims. Sims got a good jab, works the jab up and down, but Barbosa's really sneaky, and he can get you to punch first, and then he counters really sharp. You saw that even against a clever guy like Cattrall. You saw how much improved Barbosa is. Now, I think he's a bit too mentally switched on and sharp and fast and clever and cute for Sims Jr. So I think Barbosa's the bet of the weekend, if he's in the same kind of form that we've seen him recently.
So Barbosa's the underdog, is he?
He is, yeah. Sims is odds on.
Right.
Yeah,
I'd probably
that's wrong.
I'd probably pick Sims, to be honest. I would probably pick Sims, but I wouldn't, not with any certainty. But yeah, Barbosa from recent interviews that I've read and seen seems, well, God, I don't even know why I'm saying it. What else is a fighter going to say in the build-up to a fight that they're knackered and they feel horrendous? But he seems switched on and up for this one. But I think I'm going to go against you, and I'm going to pick Sims to win this one.
There you go. Split. We're split. Not down the middle. We're just split. The Christy Meister and I. And also Oscar Colazzo is in action. He's 28-1 on. What a little fireball he is. He's great to watch, isn't he? Isn't he? He'll take a shot, but he can land one. And he hits pretty hard for those minimum weight fighters. He's way down there. I think 6 knockouts in his last 7 world title fights. He is a fireball. I enjoy watching him.
Yeah, he's kind of on the fringes of kind of pound for pound consideration. Actually, when you text to say, right, ready, we need to start now, I was just reading an article that Phil Rogers has sent in with the interview with Colazzo, which should be on the Boxing Scene website this week. Probably by the time you're listening to this, actually, it'll be on there.
Actually, Phil sent me a text just the other day because he's gone on the recent Desert Island Fights, which is a new podcast, which I've not tuned into yet, but sounds really interesting. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good kind of vehicle. They've had a couple of people on already. I think there's 3 or 4 of those podcasts out there. So I've not caught up with it yet, but it sounds fantastic. And I know Phil's just on the latest edition, so I'm going to try and tune into that.
Yes, it is a good idea. I mean, I don't want to be too precious about it, but Desert Island Fights was one of the weekly things that I did during lockdown for Boxing News, if people remember. But yeah, terrific idea. And Phil sent me that as well, so I'm going to listen to that probably on the dog walk this afternoon. Yeah. I think Steve's had Eric Raskin on. Who else has he had on? So yeah, they'll definitely be worth listening to.
Don't worry, Steve. Matt's not sending a plagiarism suit your way.
I'm not. I think too much of him.
Good. Yeah, exactly. We're not churlish in that way. We're supporters. We're believers. We are supporters and believers. And we thank you for your support and your belief as well, particularly the lovely Patreons who really alongside NES Medical, are the reason we're able to produce the pod each and every week. Life's getting harder. Petrol prices going up again. I mean, they're absolute thieves, aren't they? That lot, absolute thieves. So we do appreciate that times are pretty hard with the old pocket, but if you can afford less than a £5 a month, the price of a coffee these days or a pint, then that would be great. That would support us in our quest to push forward the truth, to support the sport, and to bring you a little bit of entertainment week to week. And with that in mind, thanks to you all. We'll speak to you again next time.